KPBS On Demand is supported by Latino Legacy Foundation, presenting their Storyteller series, Reach for the Stars with Ellen Ochoa, the first Latina astronaut. Welcome Serenade by the all-female mariachi Amapolas, Sunday, June 29th. More at latinolegacyfoundation.org.
Good morning, I'm Debbie Cruz. It's Tuesday, October 1st. Work is underway to repair a critical part of the South Bay Wastewater treatment plant. More on that next. But first, let's do the headlines. It's going to be a hot couple of days. The National Weather Service says today will likely be the warmest day of the week. A heat advisory goes into effect this morning in the inland and mountain areas and will be in place until Thursday night. In the deserts, an excessive heat warning will be in effect through Thursday night. Temperatures in the deserts are expected to reach about 110 degrees today. In the inland and mountain areas, temps will be in the high 80s, and by the coast, it'll be in the high 70s. Tomorrow is Free Ride Day. MTS and NCTD are offering free transit to mark Clean Air Day. Mark Olson is Director of Marketing and Communications for MTS. He says the agencies want to encourage San Diegans to try something new with their commute and see how transit works for them.
Free Ride Day is a great way to take some vehicles off the road, avoid that time-consuming traffic, and also save money on gas and parking. San Diegans can actually save about an average of $1,200 per month, or almost $15,000 annually, by switching from driving to taking transit.
This year will be the 5th Free Ride Day held by the agencies. MTS says each year the transit agencies have seen an up to 30% increase in ridership. Olson says you don't need to do anything to get a free ride on Wednesday. Just hop on board at your desired transit center or bus stop. This week, registered voters in the county will receive voter information pamphlets for the presidential general election. The pamphlets changed in March, so they will look a little different than the ones in the past. They will be larger in size and include information on voting options, election deadlines, candidate statements, ballot measures, and a sample of what your official ballot will look like. If you signed up to get your voter information pamphlet electronically, you should have received an email giving you the same information and a link to your pamphlet. Registered voters in the county will receive a ballot in the mail next week. From KPBS, you're listening to San Diego News Now. Stay with me for more of the local news you need.
KPBS On Demand is supported by Splatero, helping homeowners pay for home improvements by offering streamlined access to your home's equity with no additional monthly payments or new debt. Splatero provides a lump sum payment in exchange for a share of your home's future value. Pre-qualification available at splatero.com.
There was a big step forward yesterday in dealing with the sewage crisis plaguing the southern border. Reporter John Carroll tells us about the critical piece of infrastructure that's now getting repaired.
Junction Box 1. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but when it comes to the proper operation of the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant, it's huge. The junction box is what allows plant operators to control the flow of sewage from Mexico that goes into the plant. Too much sewage coming across back in 2021 damaged it, and it hasn't worked since. The repairs should be complete by next spring. After that, it's going to take many more years and hundreds of millions of dollars more to get this plant working properly and expanded. John Carroll, KPBS News.
The San Dieguito Lagoon is once again home to wetlands and endangered species. Reporter Katie Anasta says the restoration project is meant to protect both coastal cities and wildlife.
The project has restored more than 80 acres of wetlands and salt marsh between Del Mar and Solana Beach. Much of the area had been used for agriculture. Crews removed soil and added back native plants. Now it's home to birds and other wildlife once again.
Creation of wetlands is kind of the new strategy that we have to replace those we lost.
Joe LaCava represents District 1 on the San Diego City Council. He says replacing wetlands can also help coastal communities brace for rising sea levels.
Basically, what we've created is an opportunity for when that sea level rise happens, that there is some place for the water to go, not threaten our public infrastructure or private development.
The project also created a new trail along the El Camino Real. It'll eventually be part of a trail leading from the coast to Julian. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
When elected leaders undermine the very institutions and norms designed to keep them accountable, democracies can die from within. That's a key premise of the 2018 book, How Democracies Die. The co-author Daniel Ziblatt spoke with reporter Amitha Sharma yesterday.
Professor Ziblatt, thank you so much for joining us. Your most recent book, Tyranny of the Minority, states that political parties in democracies must follow three principles. What are they?
It means three simple things, actually. One, that you accept election losses. You accept the results of elections, win or lose. Number two, that you do not use violence, threaten violence, or incite violence to try to gain and to hold on to power. And then rule number three, just as critical, maybe a little more complicated, is that if you're a politician or a political party and you have people who violate those first two rules in your own midst, your own allies, you have to expel them from your party.
So how would you rate American democracy on these three principles?
Well, throughout our history, there have been moments where politicians have threatened violence and acted recklessly. But what's really rare about the current moment is that in an election for the highest office in the land, for the presidency of the United States, we have a candidate Trump, who just on January 6th alone didn't accept the results of an election after all the various legal channels of challenging the election results had already been exhausted, and who, by account of the committees that have investigated this, incited violence on January 6th. So in that sense, we have one candidate for office who has violated those two basic principles. And then I think perhaps most, that's about a single individual. What perhaps most shocking is that since that event, although there was some condemnation of it by the Republican Party after January 6th, by and large, the Republican Party has really talked out of both sides of its mouth. As many leaders in the Republican Party have said that the participants in January 6th need to be pardoned. And this kind of stuff, which in effect is excusing violence. And people have real difficulty seeing that Joe Biden actually won the election fair and square. And so given all of that, I think there's signs that our democracy is in trouble.
So what reforms are needed to strengthen U.S. democracy?
We live in a very old constitutional system. There's great things about our Constitution. But we have to remember our Constitution was written in the 18th century. And there's things such as the Electoral College, which every 4 years seems to bring us into crisis. So we think actually eliminating the Electoral College would be a great thing. The use of the filibuster holds up legislation on a regular basis, blocking the will of majorities. Lifetime tenure for Supreme Court justices. These are all unique features of our Constitution that have led us to our current moment.
And what happens if they're not implemented?
Well, other democracies throughout history have amazingly implemented all of these reforms. We're the only democracy in the world today with an electoral college. Other democracies used to have electoral colleges for selecting the presidents. Argentina was the last country to get rid of this in 1994. Every other democracy in the world has term limits or retirement ages for their Supreme Court justices, and no other democracy has a filibuster-like rule that we do.
How does democracy fare in the short term, and what role do regular citizens play in how this all unfolds?
Yeah, it's really essential to focus on what citizens can do, because democracy, of course, at the end of the day is ruled by the people. And so people play a critical role. Our institutions won't save us. We have to save our democracy ourselves. I think in the short run, what's really clear is that people who are committed to democracy from across the political spectrum have to join forces to defend democracy and form broad coalitions supporting candidates and parties that are committed to democracy.
So here in San Diego County, we've seen attempts to censor books in schools and libraries, threats against public officials, and just general rudeness at public government meetings. How do these symptoms play in the larger context of our democracy?
One of the underlying unwritten rules of a democracy is that you accept those that you disagree with as legitimate contenders for power. And so what that means is that even if you disagree with somebody and maybe even dislike somebody, at least in public and in the public square, you recognize that other people have a right to compete for office, and if they beat you, to govern. That's the essence of democracy. And so this unwritten rule or a norm is essential. And I think what one sees in a context of increased polarization, where you view the other side as not just a rival, but really as an enemy, you'll go to extreme measures to keep that person from power. And so that's one thing I think that we're witnessing. But the other thing that you mentioned about the banning of books, we have to remember that to be a democracy, as I said before, it's about competition, free and fair competition for office. It's about people being able to participate in politics, but it's also about basic civil liberties: freedom of press, freedom of association, and freedom of conscience, and freedom of the books that you want to read, the books that you want to read. And so, when you have politicians and political leaders attacking those basic civil liberties, including the right to read the books that you want to read, then democracy is facing serious challenges.
That was Professor Daniel Ziblatt speaking with reporter Amitha Sharma. With 93 wins so far this season, this Padres team is the best it's been since 1998. The team will host a wild card playoff series at Petco Park starting this evening. While they haven't won the first round yet, season ticket holder Chuck Merriman is already looking to the second round.
Second round, obviously, we can't wait to see those Dodgers and take them out again like in 2022.
The Padres have yet to win a World Series, but won the National League in 1984 and 1998. San Diego Filipino Film Festival kicks off its fourth year tonight in National City. This program showcases 6 features and more than 50 short films over the next 6 days. Arts reporter Beth Accomando has this preview.
The San Diego Filipino Film Festival opens tonight with When This Is All Over, which uses the pandemic as a backdrop to explore the social class divide in the Philippines. It then closes Sunday night with Gambuza. Festival co-founder Benito Batista says the historical drama centers on the execution of 3 martyr priests.
In the Philippines, we were colonized by the Spanish, and they used Christianity to colonize us. Gambuza, there are 3 priests. They started the rebellion for independence. Viva la Revolución!
New this year at the festival is the San Diego Philippine Film Trade Fair.
It's like Comic-Con of Filipino creatives. So on one day, October 5, we will not show a single film, but we will now concentrate on exposing service providers that are Filipino heritage.
The Film Trade Fair takes place on Saturday at the Liberty Station Conference Center. The wildly diverse film selections will all screen at AMC Plaza Bonita. So check out some Filipino film and culture this weekend. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
That's it for the podcast today. As always, you can find more San Diego news online at kpbs.org. Join us again tomorrow for the day's top stories. I'm Debbie Cruz. Thanks for listening and have a great Tuesday.
KPBS On Demand is supported by the San Diego County Toyota dealers, presenting the new 2025 Camry with refined design and performance. Visit your local Toyota dealer to learn more about all the features the new 2025 Camry offers. The San Diego County Toyota dealers. We make it easy.